when a situation where you find that a person look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, now let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper. We'll be looking at quite a number of issues. The lead story, 19th Daily Trust dialogue, of course, as expected. Security, economic recovery, key to 2023 elections success. You have the riders that says Nigeria at a crossroads, Abdulsalami, and also many threats ahead of polls. That's Media Trust Chair, Yusuf and Morotala. You have also we need competent leaders to overcome challenges, Atiku and Zulum. Politics too important to be left to politicians alone. That's according to the Sultan of Sokoto. And then you have the other stories at the top there. Abdulsalami to FG, fuel price hike, recipe for chaos. Varsity workers, NLC, TUC mobilized for January 27 mass action. And then you see, we will engage labor. That's according to governors. Other stories there. I'm impressed by El-Rufai's performance in Kaduna. That's the president there speaking during his visit to Kaduna State to commission some projects there. At the very bottom, you'd see, or rather the pictorial there shows you pictures from the Daily Trust dialogue, where you had in attendance the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, and you have also Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, and of course you have Abdulsalami Abubakar, the former head of state, and also at the panelists there, you see, some of the guests that appeared, for panel discussions. Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, also the Dr. Murtala Rufai and Ifeko Moigo Okaru. They were the guest speakers at that event. And then at the bottom there, hospitals to drop HMOs January 31 over poor tariffs and debts. You'd also see Niger governor endorses Tinubu for presidency. And then the next story there, how Kano school proprietor killed, buried 5-year-old pupil. Very sad story, really. For details of that, pick a copy and turn to page 5. You'd get all the details about that sad story of a 5-year-old girl that was killed, really. It was
a really sad one, All right, moving on to the next newspaper, which is the Nation newspaper. At the top there, you'd find a story that says, Bello to Tinubu, you can take Lagos feats to Abuja. And we have a writer here that says, Niger governor backs APC stalwart, ex-governor visits IBB. Moving on, thanks for linking me with your success, Buhari tells El-Rufai, and you can find details of that story on page 5. Still on page 5, Abdulsalami cautions politicians over fiery comments. All right, the lead story there has to do with the controversy surrounding the petrol subsidy and the NEC, that's the National Economic Council, saying petrol subsidy can't continue beyond June. And the writers here say decision on pump price belongs to NNPC and no going back on January 27 protests, says NLC. And right at the bottom there, you'd find a story that says WHO recommends lifting of travel restrictions, and then reps to probe missing arms. These are the stories that made the front page of the Nation newspaper today.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. There you'd see the lead story. Abdulsalami, workers warn FG as NEC decides subsidy removal in June. Well, we heard the other time the Senate president saying that the president has not asked anyone to remove fuel subsidy. But here we are, National Economic Council. Well, the next one there, the riders, they're saying petrol price hike will push more Nigerians deeper into poverty, warns ex-head of state. Also, you see life already difficult for Nigerians. Don't increase fuel pump price, Sanu tells FG. And then the next one, there is 6-month provision for fuel subsidy. We'll take a position after that. And that's according to the council. You'll see also the pictures there showing you when Buhari visited Kaduna yesterday. And then below that, Buhari recalls Kaduna bombing experience. El-Rufai demands 7 billion naira reimbursement. Okay. You'll see the next stories at the bottom there. You'll see INC Yoruba group seek to join CNG suit on Biafran agitation. LASMA probes officers' attack on commercial bus. Female passengers eye injured. And then you see, you transformed Lagos, do same for Nigeria. Niger governor tells Tinubu. And then at the top there, reps order probe of allegedly missing 178,459 police firearms. And the next one, Electoral Act faces delay at the National Assembly, harmonization yet to start. At the very top, Port Harcourt refinery project, 3.96 billion liters petrol annually, aviation fuel report. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper today.
All right, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. And we have the lead story there that boldly says petrol may sell for 403 naira per litre as governors engage labor. And the riders here that states a federal government currently paying 24 naira as a subsidy on every litre of petrol. Expect a decision on subsidy removal in June. NEC tells Nigerians, fire me, governors not responsible for removal, PIA should run its course. And then NLC insists on February 1 national protest, mobilizes labor across the country. And then right beside the page, you'd see some stories there. On page 3, court bars NNPC ministry from allocating crude to oil firm. Reps investigate missing 178,459 police arms. And then for business, travelers stranded as airlines ditch U.S. destinations over 5G rollout. We also have how terrorists try to kill me in Kaduna by Buhari. And then on page 6 there, you'd find a story that says, prepare for uprising worse than hashtag answers if you hike fuel price. Abdusalami warns a federal government. And right below, you'd see 2023 Northeast legislators back North Central colleagues on Yahaya Bello. These are the stories that are making rounds on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, let's get perspectives on some of these stories now. And we have in the studio the editor 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, to talk to us about some of these stories here on the front pages of our newspapers. Welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. Well, let's begin with the sad one, really, the very heart-touching story about the schoolgirl in Kano that was, killed. I think I saw a story on the 21st Century Chronicle.
Yeah, sure.
On that, a very, very sad story. What's your reaction to this happening?
It's really a sad, tragic incident, not only for the parents of Hanifa Abubakar, but for almost all Nigerians. If you look at it, the story trended yesterday. 47 days ago, her picture trended. Very beautiful, cherubic girl, full of life. That she was abducted. The release when calls were made. You remember they demanded ransom. The rescue Hanifa. There was a hashtag. 47 days ago, until yesterday, we had the most devastating news that she was actually killed. killed not by one rogue outside, but her teacher. You see how devastating it is. Going forward, what we learn from this, as a reaction to the tragedy yesterday, Commissioner of Education in Kano said that the school has been shut down. They will equally clamor on unregistered private schools that populated the state. So that's the problem. Nobody knows if this school into the Murtala in corner Ghana in Kano was even registered. Very not many states, particularly in the northern part of the country, take this serious. Yes, there is an issue of quality, poor quality in public schools. So people resort to all these mushrooms schools. I call them mushrooms because garages have been converted into private schools and they are called international schools. And people, because of the poor nature of the public schools across the states, resort to this issue. And because of the poor nature as well as the unregulated nature of the industry, all manner of characters, psychos, rapists, mentally retarded characters are being recruited as teachers. Because what happened, I couldn't imagine.
In fact,
as a father, you understand what?
Very sad, really. Is the way and manner in which she was even killed, is what even baffles me. Given rat poison.
Can you imagine?
A baby, of 5. So it's really sad, to have this kind of happenings. Like you said, it seemed to me that there's a mental health issue here.
Exactly. And all manner of people I've been in, I'm not saying that the public schools are better, but all manner of people have been recruited. Kidnappers have been recruited as teachers. Robbers have been recruited as teachers. People with mental issues have been recruited. Look at that example. So what we should do, what state government should do, is to regulate these schools. Yes, there is a problem. Government or public schools are not living up to expectation, but that we should not allow all manner of mushroom schools to spring up all over the place. Look at even the nature of the school, if you look at the video footage yesterday. So it was a ramshackle facility being run by people who should be psychiatrists.
This seemed to give credence to the exercise embarked upon by Karuta in Kano State about registering tricycle operators, isn't it?
Sure. And people are against it. You can't, because in Kaduna, for instance, there is a sort of curfew for this tricyclist. Anything 6, they are off the street. So there is a mass exodus to Kano. And people go and see what happened to social media. People politicize everything. Yes, the government has failed in providing decent public transportation, but that does not mean that all manner of characters should bring tricycles to Kano and populate the city. No, there should be regulation. But when they went for a 3-day strike, people were trekking, and as if the whole world was coming down. Government must regulate distance.
Okay, now talking about schools, regulating, the kind of teachers that they bring into, their fore. One thing I know is as Nigerians, we don't really believe in mental or psychological, evaluation before recruiting teachers into schools, because when you talk about these things happening, it's not just in Kano, it happens everywhere, and these are actually the ones that we know of. For example, there's a story of a man in Niger State who actually defiled 13 of his students. Do you get? So how are we to say, or how are we to know for sure that if government decides to regulate, these schools, that these things will stop?
If the government does that, I think we will drastically reduce these incidents. I remember about 2 weeks ago in Kaduna, 2 schools were shut, and they are faith-based schools. Because, like I say, the failure of government to meet up with its responsibility in providing quality education to Nigerians. All manner of schools. Almost every mosque has a school. Every church has a school now. Faith-based schools. The quality is so poor. The environment is so... I don't even know how to... Some are in garages with roofing sheets. So I am imagining the temperature in the afternoon. And all manner of teachers have been recruited to teach, who have been paid peanuts. The case of Kaduna, there are 2 Islamia schools. One teacher impregnated a girl. The other one was a case of rape.
Oh.
What that simply means is this: people hide under all manner, particularly religion. It's a very sensitive matter. To perpetrate all manner of things, and you cannot talk because no, you're trying to ridicule the religion, or you're trying to ridicule the people who camouflage, who hide under this religious toga to commit all manner of crimes.
And it's really painful. If you look at, this is coming just a few days when we heard about an aid worker who raped a girl and who eventually committed suicide. So one begin to question the humanity of our society. Have we lost it?
Like I said, she mentioned mental health. Mental health is something that we don't take serious. If we see Mr. Ayuba parking and he enters a psychiatric hospital trying to console a doctor, wow. In Hausa they will say, the tepeng hankeli. So anything psychiatric, we don't want to do with it. We don't want to have anything to do with it. And it may be used against you if you are contesting an election. He has been to a psychiatric hospital. Whereas mental health is an integral part of our life, just like any other aspect of life. So these are things, during the Tinubu days in Lagos, I remember, if you have a parking ticket, your license will be confiscated, your vehicle impounded, until you get a certificate from a public institution, a psychiatric institution, to say that, yes, your head is correct, like they say in Pidgin. I think maybe we have to start that all teachers to be recruited should undergo mental health, periodic mental checks from government hospitals. I don't want a ramshackle schools to go to another ramshackle facility and obtain OSHOD certificate. I think we have to start from that aspect. And the issue is the governments and officials have to be bold. They shouldn't be blackmailed. This is a religious school. Because all manner of corporate, look at what happened yesterday. While we are, the country is being devastated by what happened to Hanifa Ikano, a case came up from Maiduguri, a very prominent school. This bullying by seniors, it should be sanctioned. Look at, you see the footage. He almost killed that child with razor blades.
Very sad indeed.
So
okay. What about, you talked about ramshack schools and all that. What about poor Nigerian parents who can, barely afford to feed themselves, but, still want to give their children or their wards, a proper education?
Proper education does not start and end with passing WAEC and JAM. Education is about child's development. You should be mindful of where that child will be taking his lessons. Who are his tutors? we patronize all these schools simply because you want your son to pass the WAEC, to get 300 or 350 or 280 in his jam. That's it.
Miracle centers, isn't it?
You have to look at the nature of the school. This is where your kid. Is it conducive? Most of them, if you go to urban slums, 2-bedroom apartment converted into a full-fledged international secondary school.
You know, I'm curious about the role of parents here. You know, we've had situations where children will go to school and children will be in school and then it's closing time, nobody is there to pick them up, you know, and all of that. So what attitude should we see, you know, from parents in terms of being very deliberate and being careful with the way they, you know, treat this
I think what happened to Hanifa, unfortunately, should be an eye-opener to parents. Never trust anyone. And even school authorities, they should put safeguards. The type of people they employ as security, as teachers, among others. And if you look at it now, particularly in the urban areas, you know, must either you go to work, your wife goes to work. And maybe you can afford a driver that will pick your schools. Maybe you drop them, your wife picks them later. Traffic and what have you, all these kind of things. They are part and integral part of our life. So we have to strike a balance. Send schools to send your kids to neighborhood schools where it is easy for them to be picked. Don't work in Maitama and send your kids to, let's say, Gwarimpa, or you stay in Gwarimpa and send your kids to school in Maitama or Asokoro. Looking at the distance and what have you. So, all these are realities that we have to face squarely. First, to save the children and to save their future. And we should know that education does not start and ends with passing exams. And that's why we are patronizing all this manner of schools. Some of them are even, what do they call them, in centers, where the children can be held during WAEC, where he can be held, you pay money and somebody will sit for the exams.
Miracle
centers. Majority of them are miracle centers.
Okay, let's move on to another story making rounds, talking about reps probing missing 178,459 police firearms and ammunition. Let's have your thoughts.
It's a serious matter. What that means is this number of about 700, right? About 780. About 780,
780, right? Yes, almost.
Yes, almost 780 rifles are in the wrong hands now. Yes, that's the import of this story. Some rogue somewhere are operating with these rifles. And you look at it more than, if you look at what you see the breakdown, most of them are, almost half of it are assault rifles. What if you? Then you link this with the prevalent insecurity. So you talk of light arms, porous borders. What that means is these arms that are missing are in the hands of kidnappers, bandits, Boko Haram terrorists, political talks, and so on and so forth. So they are not even coming from the border. These are official weapons. The government spent money to acquire for our security agents, saddled with the maintenance of law and order, the police. The Auditor General can only audit the police. If the military can be audited, the revelation will be more devastating. This is just the police.
I mean, we've had cases of where even terrorists, Boko Haram, attack barracks and go to the armory, take arms and all that.
That is even an outright attack. There are instances where military personnel, during the Obasanjo days, a colonel, I remember, and some majors, were arrested and prosecuted for selling arms. These guys were in Jaji, and they were selling arms from our Kachia military facility to Niger Delta militants. As a result of that, a serving GOC, who was even army chief, was removed. That was just one instance that came to the public light.
I think last week there was even a story of a fake major general who was arrested,
Yes.
and you know, you could actually see the guns.
It's not a fake IG or a fake police commissioner. A fake major general with all the compliments. That is not even new. Some years back, here in Abuja, a fake colonel was arrested. Colonel with troops, real troops, escorting him, heavily armed. Look at the arms.
You said real troops?
Real
You mean
troops, yes.
real troops?
He
You
was
mean these
fake.
are military officers?
Military officers, yes, I remember. Even this one,
How did that even happen?
corruption. He was intercepted at the checkpoint along Kujihi. The troops that were following him were real, with a painted official car. So they zoomed up. They were arrested, were found out to be real soldiers. But the guy was a fake colonel.
But someone deployed those soldiers to escort him, isn't it?
Sure.
So how did they get deployed?
Money exchange hands. Corruption.
And yet we didn't hear about the person that did the deployment.
No. I think the matter died there. I don't even remember whether they were prosecuted or not. Mark you, a fake commissioner of police was arrested at the force headquarters, Louis Edet House. And Daily Trust, I remember, did that story. He has been there for years. Every morning he goes there, he receives all the complimentaries and what have you. He goes into the IG's office and what have you. He transacted business on behalf of the force headquarters.
It makes you wonder how many other fakes there are.
I mean, exactly. I mean, how do we even know if there are no more of such people in the services? And, you know, the implication of them being in those places on our efforts to deal with, you know, criminal elements. There could be saboteurs of some sort.
Last year, I think, or so, a fake deputy controller general of customs was arrested. You remember? They dismissed it as a psychiatric case, but he wasn't an officer, fully dressed. So this question our even security issue. You remember when NDA was attacked last year? There are so many issues. Some people spoke, and you know, we politicize things. I remember there was somebody that almost some parts of the country, you know, rose against him when he said, I concur with that position. You don't need to have Juma'at mosques in military facilities to be used by people who are not residents of those facilities. Go to our college here. All manner of people get into our college on Friday on a day like this to perform the Juma'at prayer. Do you know who are they?
And they are not personnel.
You remember? But when people talk, they'll say, no. We are not saying that people should not pray. They should go to public designated worship facilities. They have no business get you into NDA on a Friday to pray if you are not a resident of that facility. There was a story by one of our colleagues. He did it. On Friday, he went to a military facility in Lagos. He dressed like a Muslim. He wasn't even a Muslim, he was an undercover journalist. And he got full access. In fact, an officer on duty guided him where the mosque. He repeated the same thing on Sunday. He held the Holy Bible. And a military officer on duty guided him. Religion is, we are using religion, you know, to compromise so many other things. But you know, we don't want to talk about religion because we don't want to be stigmatized.
All right, before we go, because of our time, I'd like for us to talk about this issue of fuel subsidy. It's generating a lot of reactions. Even from the Daily Trust dialogue yesterday, we saw comments by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, on that. And then we are seeing also that governors have engaged labor and that a liter of fuel is likely to sell for 403 naira. In one breath, we also heard that the NEC is looking at 305 or so. So the conversations are just, on top gear.
Yes. With the privatization of NNPC, NNPC is now a private liability company. There won't be subsidy. That is the naked truth. The government presently is spending about 200 billion to subsidize PMS.
You mean monthly?
Monthly, yes. You remember some months ago, NNPC could not remit a dime to FAC because what they generated, they used it to pay subsidy. The reality, yes, General Abdulsalam has spoken yesterday. Many people pay, or maybe on behalf of the masses. But this is not sustainable. Australia, it's not sustainable. You can't eat your cake and have it again. All governors.
But the concern is about, how difficult things have turned out to be, economically for many Nigerians in terms of, the spending power of Nigerians and affording basic, amenities and all of that. Basic things of life. I mean, food, water, very basic things. I mean, a bag of pure water is going for almost 300 naira now. Not to even talk about rice and other food items. Food inflation is just on another level. So, with all of these difficulties, by the time you remove fuel subsidy, what do you think is going to happen if there's no any arrangement to cushion these effects?
Australia, petroleum industry law is in place. NNPC is no longer a Father Christmas. That's the reality. Those in charge of the economy should work and think outside the box to ameliorate the suffering you have mentioned. But getting billions, about 200 billions every month from NNPC as a subsidy for one product is not realistic, and that's what the governors are saying.
So, to ameliorate the suffering, they are proposing 5,000 naira transport
grant
allowance or
for Nigerians,
palliative
grant for poor Nigerians.
For you and me, or
for poor Nigerians. So
for Nigerians.
Again, what's your reaction to that?
We have tried that. There are all manner of segments of social investment, but it seems that they are not working. You remember 20,000 was given for 3 months, we were given to about how many thousand Nigerians across the local government. I can tell you authoritatively that this has been hijacked by politicians. They give it to their wives, even though they have enough. What I'm saying simply is the government must think outside the box. But the subsidy removal is a reality. We should go with it. But on the other hand, there are certain things that can be done. 200 billion can do it a lot on the economy. Instead of giving it to PMS, you have 5 cars at home, heavy duty in jeeps and what have you, that guzzle fuel. I have just my chekele, with maybe in a week I buy only 3,000 naira something. So you are the one enjoying the subsidy, not me. There is no subsidy on diesel, there is no subsidy on kerosene and what have you. Most of our trucks use diesel that transport food items from one part of the country to the other. It has been deregulated already. So what suffering could it add again?
Okay, now the governors, have actually moved to abort, a nationwide strike, set to commence by labor leaders on February. But, I've been seeing this particular title, on every newspaper. And it seems to me, I don't know what you think, but it seems to me that, the governors seem to be more interested in stopping that protest than, looking at, how the Nigerians would actually suffer once this subsidy is removed.
The labor groups, I don't know, they use industrial action as a weapon. But come to think, how realistic are their demands? How realistic are their demands? If, for instance, now, how many workers do we have all over the Federation? How many are into the public sector, organized private sector, non-organized private sector, if there is a little like that? And those who are even into, they don't belong to any of these groups. We should look at the larger picture. NLC, all these groups, just like ASU, make demands that are realistic. You are asking, let's say, for 2 trillion. As a governor or as a president, how much do I have? It is not only education that I will fund. If I don't do roads, ASU will insult me. If they go to hospitals that drugs, they will insult me. They need water. I have to fund security. There are so many demands crying for attention, all the sectors. It's just like this thing, like they say, UN say that you should give 20% of your budget to education. Health will say you should give 25%. If you look at all these things, what remains?
Okay, now, if you look at all the reactions that we are seeing, each time this issue of removing fuel subsidy comes up, is there ever going to be a time where we'll have a consensus on this matter, where all Nigerians would actually agree that, look, it's not sustainable, it's time to take this off?
I think it has to do with the problem from the government. They are not communicating their policies well. The poor man or an average Nigerian believes that subsidy is benefiting him, whereas it is not. Let's look at it from the layman's point of view. See, Central Bank, NNPC is spending 200 billion every month on subsidy, PMS alone. Map it. Go to Yobe. How many liters of PMS do they consume on a monthly basis? Go to Adamawa, go to Taraba, go to Jigawa, for instance. If you minus the commercial centers, Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Aba, what have you, most of this one, they consume less. So how much of the subsidy is trickling to you?
But if you talk about that, people will say, look, transportation is key to everyone, not just the elites, even to the poor. If, for instance, you have a farmer who has products he wants to sell in the market, where we know that most of the northern states, are, largely farmers, how do they move their goods to the markets and how do they sell them? You know that that's definitely going to have an implication on the cost, of the whatever they are selling, the food items they are selling.
What we're saying here, traders hike their prices when recently the president said that he will increase the police salary. And automatically that will say, okay, the traders will increase their prices of goods and what have you. The ABC and XYZ of this remove subsidy, let's face the stark reality. And government must be transparent. When this subsidy is removed, yeah, we have excess. What do we do with it? On the part of the governors, the president is giving them all money under all manner of names. Apart from the fact and loans. But he don't ask them what do they do with it. A state governor from the North Central, for instance, collected more than 10 of such facilities.
Does the president have the powers to ask them what they do with the money?
Yes, because the money comes from me. When during Minister of Finance Adiosun, when this issue of bailout started, there were criteria. But almost all these governors floated those criteria, and the government the president keeps giving them money to pay salary. and still they are still owing. So the issue is simple. Government and the public we over-centralize issues, even our safeguards. Let's go back to the governors. Mr. Elia, you are governor of XYZ state, you collected so amount. What have you done with it? Let's say you are the local government chairperson of XYZ.
I mean,
you collected so much. What did you do with it?
But that's very little that the president can do in this instance, isn't it? These are elected governors.
No, what we're saying here is, but he gives them money, loan. He has no power to stop their FAC. But bail out, he has that power because it's a loan. If you don't fulfill this criteria, no money for you. Mr. XYZ, you are from the North Central State, you collected 200 billion as bailout to settle salaries. But up to now, you are still paying somebody who earns 60,000 is collecting 5,000. Somebody who has 100,000 is collecting 15,000. Okay. What happened?
I think we need to go on a quick break right now. You know, it's really getting heated.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that